Water, what is even in this water? What exactly did you do? And why entire body has turned green? Do you have any clue who you are dealing with? You did this intentionally. This is assault. This was deliberate. I will drag you through every single courtroom in Maricopa County, and I will personally make sure you lose absolutely everything. Your house, your pool, every single thing you own. Since we are talking about court, let's go ahead and talk about the HOA. President Loretta Daniels of Meadow Glen Commons had developed a very simple and reliable system. Identify a resident who would not push back. Apply pressure until they caved and then move straight on to the next one. What she had never accounted for was homeowner Nathan Voss, who noticed the unmistakable signs that someone had been using his private pool, installed cameras, reviewed the footage carefully, and then sat quietly with everything he knew for 2 full weeks before he made a single move. Because he wanted to be completely certain the case was airtight before he acted. When he finally confronted her directly, she told him his pool fell under HOA jurisdiction and that she would lien his property and make his life in that neighborhood absolutely unbearable. What she did not know was that Nathan had footage of every single unauthorized visit, a pool chemical receipt dated 3 days before her most recent swim, a driveway full of neighbors who personally heard every word of her threat, and an attorney already sitting by waiting for her name. Before we move any further, what city or country are you watching from? Drop it in the comments below. We genuinely love seeing where everyone is tuning in from. And if you believe that what belongs to you is yours alone, and that no HOA president with a free afternoon and an inflated sense of entitlement gets to decide otherwise, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button and come join us right here on Karen Unhinged. Meadow Glen Commons sits just off Ridgemont Boulevard in Scottsdale, Arizona. 61 single-family homes, terracotta rooftops, desert landscaping throughout, and an HOA that collected $3,600 per household every single year, and had not released a complete financial statement since 2021. The community maintained one shared pool on the eastern edge of the development near the clubhouse on Taliesin Court, kept up year-round and open to every resident. That pool is not the one this story is about. Nathan Voss, 43 years old, owned the home at 9214 Saguaro Ridge Drive, a 4-bedroom property he had purchased 4 years prior that came with something the vast majority of homes in Meadow Glen Commons simply did not have. A private pool, fully enclosed within a 6-foot block wall fence, running the entire outer edge of his backyard. Accessible only through a single iron gate on the south side of the property that latched securely from the inside. The pool belonged to Nathan in exactly the same way his kitchen and his living room belonged to him. It sat on his deed, within his property lines, and had absolutely nothing to do with the HOA, the shared community amenities, or anyone else living on Ridgemont Boulevard. Nathan worked as a regional operations manager for a logistics company headquartered out of the Scottsdale Air Park, which meant he traveled on a regular basis, sometimes 2 or 3 days out of any given week, and the house sat completely empty during those stretches. He was not a man who went looking for conflict. He kept his property in excellent condition, paid his HOA dues consistently and on time, and generally kept to himself outside of a standing Saturday morning coffee routine with his neighbor Miriam Banks at 9216. A retired schoolteacher in her early 60s who had lived in Meadow Glen Commons longer than nearly anyone else and had watched Loretta Daniels operate from close range for 5 full years. The first sign that something was wrong came on a Tuesday evening in late October when Nathan returned home from a 2-day work trip and walked out into his backyard to find a pool chair positioned at a noticeably different angle than he had left it. He stood there for a moment, studied it, told himself he had probably moved it and simply forgotten, and went back inside. The second sign came the following week. A faint waterline mark along the pool steps that sat considerably higher than normal evaporation could account for, and a single long blonde hair caught inside the pool skimmer. Nathan did not have blonde hair. He stood at the edge of that pool for a long time staring at the skimmer. Then he went inside and ordered 2 cameras. He installed them on a Thursday, one positioned above the pool gate, the other covering the full width of the backyard from the corner of the house. Both connected directly to his phone, both recording around the clock. He left for Phoenix early on a Friday morning for a client meeting and pulled up the footage that same evening from his hotel room. He watched it twice all the way through. Then he set his phone down on the nightstand and sat quietly on the edge of the bed for a while. He knew exactly who it was. He had recognized her the moment he saw her, but he did not call anyone that night. He did not confront anyone. He simply saved the footage to a second location, went asleep, and began the quiet and very deliberate process of assembling a case that Loretta Daniels would spend a very long time wishing he had never started. Nathan came home from Phoenix on Saturday morning, brewed coffee, and settled in at his kitchen table with his phone. He watched the footage 3 additional times, not because he had any doubt about what he was looking at, but because he wanted every single detail locked firmly into memory before he did anything with it. Loretta Daniels, HOA president of Meadow Glen Commons, had walked through his private pool gate at 1:47 in the afternoon on Friday carrying a bag, arranged herself comfortably in his pool chair, lowered herself into his pool, spent 1 hour and 23 minutes there, and then walked back out through the gate as casually as if she had just finished running a quick errand. She had not knocked, she had not called ahead, she had not left any kind of note. She had simply shown up, used his property as she pleased, and left. And based on that single blonde hair caught in the skimmer and the shifted pool chair from 2 weeks prior, this was clearly not her first visit. Nathan did not walk over to Loretta's house that morning. He went next door to Miriam Banks instead. Miriam pulled open the door, looked at his face for just a moment, and said, "What did she do?" Nathan held out his phone and played the footage without speaking a single word. Miriam watched the whole thing, handed the phone back to him, and then told him something that stopped him completely cold. She had seen Loretta's car parked directly in front of his house on at least 4 separate occasions during periods when she knew Nathan was away. She had assumed Loretta was conducting a routine property inspection and thought absolutely nothing further of it. Nathan asked whether she would be willing to put that in writing. Miriam said without any hesitation that she absolutely would. She stepped back inside and returned 10 minutes later carrying a handwritten statement, dated and signed. Nathan spent the following 2 weeks doing nothing that anyone could see. From the outside, his life looked entirely unchanged. He went to work, came home, waved at neighbors, and paid Loretta no visible attention whatsoever. But every time he stepped out of the house, he checked the camera feeds remotely from his phone. Loretta returned twice more across those 2 weeks. Same routine on both occasions. Through the gate, pool chair, water, back out again. By the time Nathan considered himself finished, he had 5 fully documented visits captured on camera, Miriam's signed written statement, and a detailed log of dates and times stretching back 6 weeks. He called Fletcher Cross on a Wednesday evening and laid the entire situation out in a single, uninterrupted conversation. Fletcher was a civil litigation attorney operating out of a firm on North Scottsdale Road, who focused specifically on property rights and HOA disputes. He listened to everything Nathan said without cutting in once. When Nathan finished, Fletcher said, "Do not approach her yet. Treat the pool this Friday. Then give her one more opportunity to come back." Nathan asked what he meant exactly by treating the pool. Fletcher explained it to him. Nathan was quiet for a brief moment. Then he asked, "Is that actually legal?" Fletcher told him it was entirely legal, completely harmless, and entirely Nathan's decision to make. Nathan considered it for exactly 4 seconds. Then he said, "Tell me what I need to buy." He purchased the chemical compound from a pool supply store on East Camelback Road on Thursday afternoon, kept the receipt carefully. and treated the pool on Friday evening, just before the sun dropped below the horizon. Then he switched both cameras to high resolution, left the house Saturday morning at his usual time, and drove to a coffee shop on Scottsdale Road to sit and wait. He did not have to wait very long at all. At 1:52 in the afternoon, his phone buzzed with a motion alert. He opened the camera app and watched Loretta Daniels walk through his pool gate for the sixth documented time, place her bag down on his pool chair, and lower herself into the water without a single moment of hesitation. Nathan ordered a second coffee and kept waiting. Nathan arrived home at 3 o'clock. He did not hurry. He pulled into the driveway, retrieved his coffee cup from the cup holder, and walked inside at a completely unhurried pace. He reviewed the complete camera footage from his kitchen counter before doing anything else. The footage was even better than he had anticipated. Loretta had spent 1 hour and 40 minutes in the pool, longer than any visit before it, which meant greater exposure, more time in the water, and considerably more sunscreen dissolving into the water around her. She had climbed out at 3:11 in the afternoon, dried off with her towel, collected her bag, and walked back out through the gate. Nathan watched the precise moment she passed the reflection of his sliding glass door on her way out and came to a complete stop. She stood perfectly still for roughly 4 seconds, staring down at her own arms. Then she looked at her legs, then back at her arms again. Then she began scrubbing her forearm with the towel in short, firm strokes that accomplished absolutely nothing, except confirm what she was already beginning to work out. Nathan watched every second of it in high resolution from his kitchen and felt a deep and settled calm that had been entirely absent for weeks. He did not have to wait long for what came next. Loretta appeared at his front door at 4:23 in the afternoon. He already knew she was on her way before she knocked because the front camera had picked her up halfway down the driveway. She had changed her clothes, but the green tint remained clearly visible along her forearms, across her collarbone, and on the left side of her neck. She knocked twice, sharp and forceful. Nathan opened the door and looked at her with the exact expression he had been quietly rehearsing for 2 weeks. Completely neutral, completely unbothered, giving her absolutely nothing to read. Loretta pointed at her arm and informed him that she knew precisely what he had done to that pool, and that she intended to sue him for every dollar of medical expenses, emotional distress, and property interference she could attach to his name. She delivered it fast and at full volume with the complete confidence of someone who had not yet understood that the conversation she was currently having was the single worst legal decision of her entire life. Nathan let her finish without interrupting a single word. Then he said quietly and without any trace of drama whatsoever, "Would you like to explain to me why you were in my pool?" Loretta opened her mouth. Nathan raised his phone with the camera footage already pulled up on screen. 6 visits, complete footage, time-stamped, her face clearly identifiable in every single clip. He turned the screen toward her and let her watch herself walk through his gate for the 6th time in 6 weeks. The color that drained from Loretta's face in that moment had nothing at all to do with the pool chemical. She stood in his doorway with green arms and an expression that had shifted with remarkable speed from outrage into something considerably quieter and considerably more frightened. Nathan told her that Fletcher Cross at Hartwell Legal on North Scottsdale Road had already reviewed all of the footage, that Miriam Banks had submitted a signed witness statement, and that a formal complaint had been filed with the Maricopa County Attorney's office that very morning. He told her the cease and desist would be delivered to her door by the close of business Monday. Then he said, calm and final, that she should probably contact an attorney, and he closed the door. Loretta stood alone on his porch for a moment. Both cameras recorded it clearly. Then she walked back down the driveway with green arms, a closed door behind her, and a very long weekend stretching out ahead of her. Loretta did not reach a lawyer quickly enough. Fletcher Cross filed suit on Monday morning, and the filing was neither quiet nor polite in any way. It listed criminal trespassing across 6 fully documented incidents, invasion of private property, abuse of HOA authority, fraudulent misrepresentation of HOA jurisdiction, used to intimidate a homeowner, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. Every single claim arrived attached to timestamped camera footage, a signed witness statement, a chemical purchase receipt, and a property deed that made it categorically and unmistakably clear that Loretta Daniels held no more legal right to that pool than any complete stranger wandering in off Ridgemont Boulevard. Loretta's attorney attempted to argue that the pool chemical treatment represented deliberate harm. Fletcher dismantled that argument in a single paragraph. The chemical was entirely legal, the pool was entirely private, and his client carried no obligation whatsoever to consider the comfort of someone trespassing on his personal property. The judge agreed without extended deliberation. The ruling landed hard. Loretta was ordered to pay Nathan's complete legal fees, damages covering 6 weeks of documented unauthorized entry, and compensation for emotional distress and property interference. The total came directly out of her personal account, not the HOA fund, hers alone. The HOA board, which had disregarded Nathan's original complaints in their entirety, was placed under formal review by the Arizona Department of Real Estate for failure to act on documented abuse of authority by a sitting board president. Clifford Stubbs, Loretta's most devoted board ally, submitted his resignation the same afternoon the review was publicly announced, and released a statement that implicated Loretta completely with the calm and practiced efficiency of a man whose only remaining priority was saving himself. Loretta was removed from her position as HOA president within the week. She appealed nothing. She said nothing publicly. She simply vanished from every community meeting, every neighborhood group chat, and every HOA function she had previously treated as her own personal stage. Nathan changed the pool gate code, repositioned both cameras to aim directly at it, and went swimming that Sunday afternoon in complete and absolute peace. If someone has been helping themselves to something that is yours and walking away without consequence, your story belongs in these comments. Drop it below. We read every single one.